Trapped in an abandoned house, being hunted by a monstrous witch, the protagonist of the game, a little girl, sits on finding a way out, while discovering the tragic backstory of the witch and the sinister nature of her and what she has become, trapping children in the house and transforming them into insects. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator, and welcome to the Gnarled Hag. If you have any game or video suggestions, make sure to send them to me on my Twitter or subreddit. Keep in mind that this video will have spoilers, and with that in mind, let's begin. In a small mountain town in Virginia, a large abandoned house has always been the topic of conversations on how an evil witch resides there. This rumor in particular is a subject of interest to children and teenagers whose minds always wander in their free times, which often their interest changes into curiosity, wanting to discover the truth. This is especially true for a group of friends who dare one of their members to go into the abandoned house on a dare, which after hours of no return becomes a concern of the group. The story entails the experience the little girl had while being trapped in the house and what she witnessed. Despite being adamant that what she saw was real, nobody believes her, leading to the girl developing severe paranoia, never being the same outgoing and energetic girl she used to be. Instead, preferring to stay home, always scared of what might be out there, as an evil deformed witch might be lurking and waiting to capture her and take her back to the abandoned house. No one knows what truly resides in the house, but according to the little girl's accounts, who was trapped there for a while, a large shape-shifting deformed witch lives there who eats abnormally large insects, living alone and seemingly having a tragic backstory of herself. It seems like the witch eats insects as that's the abundant source of food in the house, as the witch doesn't seem to leave the house often, hence why any intruders are most welcome, as they could be the new source of nutrition for a long time instead of insects. As the little girl breaks into the abandoned house, her memory fails her as she doesn't remember exactly how she ended up in a large cage in the attic of the house. Frightened to what might have happened or if the witch actually exists, with her being put under a spell not to remember, she uses her wit to get out of the cage. One of the first things she notices coming out of the cage is a large broken mirror depicting how the presumable witch residing in the house doesn't like looking at herself. There also lies a music box which has a small keyhole, suggesting this might be a sentimental item the witch possesses, revealing a small part of her backstory that she must have had family members or friends who gifted her this item, which is one of the most valuable assets to her, depicting that despite what she might look like, the witch still has emotions and can be sensitive. Going down to the main floor, the girl observes the heavily run-down property with wallpapers ripped out and peeling off, while some lights dimly light certain parts of the house, revealing how someone must be in the house to use lights. This theory soon proves to be correct, as the gnarled witch with a deformed face comes to the hall, with every step she takes making the floorboard screech, barely taking the weight of the large witch. The witch noticing the little girl, she rushes towards her, but the girl outwits the witch and manages to hide in a dark place, staying out of the sight of the witch. This quickly changes the little girl's plan of exploring the house into a mission of survival and escaping this presumable death house, infested with a seemingly cruel witch who could potentially kill the little girl if she's found. As the witch leaves this floor, the little girl carries on moving to find a way out, noticing how many newspaper articles and letters are pinned to the walls, depicting how the witch's only way of contact with the outside world is reading newspapers, seemingly not having any company. Exploring further, the bathroom's mirror is also broken, creating a trend that the deformed witch doesn't like looking at herself, hence why she has broken all the mirrors, depicting her sensitive side of being aware her face is deformed and being insecure about it. Maybe a reason why she has chosen to live alone in an abandoned house away from society. The impact of isolation seems to have heavily affected the witch as well, as the house is badly unkempt and dirty, with the bathroom appearing as if never being cleaned, alongside the entire of the house being left on its own, dilapidating. Going lower in the house, more sinister and eerie aspects of the witch are revealed, on how she consumes strange-looking insects. An abnormally large slug with sad-looking human eyes lies on the dining table, awaiting its doomed fate to be cooked and consumed by the witch. Its origins are ambiguous, but some theories could explain how the slug came to be. Believing the world and the universe the story of the game takes place in is largely based on real life, especially as it was explained this house is located in Virginia, a real place in the world. We can draw some conclusions that majority of the aspects of the game's story are heavily in line with real life. This could mean abnormally large insects shouldn't exist, especially ones with human-looking eyes. This could mean that the witch must perform some sort of sorcery or magic to develop or create such entities, with them not being found in nature just like that. Going to the kitchen with the windows permanently shut off, with the curtains being sewn, the little girl notices how the oven is lined with burned and charred insects' guts, revealing the witch consumes these insects. Therefore, the witch lives on an insect diet, but according to her abnormally large size, she must consume hundreds of insects per day to sustain her nutritional requirements, unless the insects she consumes are also abnormally large, providing her with the much needed calories. As a result, she performs some sort of ritual or spell, creating such large insects that are not found in the nature. But the question is, why did the slug have human eyes, and why did it look so sad, as if it had awareness of its situation and what awaits it? My theory is that the slug was likely once a human, maybe another curious child who broke into the house, or maybe even a child that was kidnapped by the witch one night. The child as a result is transformed into a misshaped insect for the witch to consume. The slug wearing some sort of clothing could also fortify this theory that it used to be a human. Therefore, the little girl was trapped in the cage to be the next meal of the witch after she runs out of stock. It's not clear why she doesn't consume humans right away in their form instead of turning them into insects, but maybe it's easier to control them that way, especially as the insects she transforms the humans into are known to be slow and easy to catch, insects such as slugs and worms. Exploring the kitchen, the little girl finds a rubbish bin that is kicked in several times, revealing how the witch also is mentally and emotionally unstable, having anger issues, maybe due to the fact that she is isolated and has to commit such sinister and evil atrocities to survive, and maybe due to the fact that she's a social outcast. Maybe the witch would want to be part of the community, but her nature and deformed face prevents her from that. The little girl finds a salt container which she uses on the slug, which quickly dissolves it and kills it. Despite being so cruel, seemingly killing a child that used to be, this seems to be a far better fate rather than being cooked and eaten. The little girl, appearing not to know the slug used to be a child, finds a small key which was swallowed by the slug, which fits the keyhole of the music box in the attic, revealing how the child was once trapped in the attic upstairs, managing to swallow the key. Maybe the music box is also used by the witch to calm her prisoners before they get prepped to be transformed into an insect and eventually consumed. Soon the little girl comes across 3 different portraits of 3 different individuals posing together and individually, apart from one person whose face is scratched off. The large portrait is of 3 different individuals, a mother witch and 2 child witches. One of the child witches has her face scratched off, with both the mother witch and the other child witch having their dedicated portraits hanging. This reveals the tragic backstory of the Gnarled Hag, who was born with facial deformities, leading to her sinister decisions down the line in her life. The portrait of the family shows a large house behind them in the background, depicting how they used to live in a different house which looks different to the abandoned house which the deformed witch resides in now. The deformed witch, as a child, always felt left out and insecure about her face, hence why she chose to scratch her own face in the picture, keeping the pictures of her mother and sister. It's not revealed how she was treated by her mother and sister, but as she keeps their pictures, it means she still loves them and cared for them. Despite that, she seems to have been an outcast from society, which led to her isolation. The mother witch and the sister witch are not around anymore, and according to a melted candle, there seems to be a memorial zone, meaning that the mother and sister are dead now. This, as a result, leaves the deformed witch all alone, losing the only people who cared for her and kept her company. She seems to also have been evicted or forced out of her childhood house, occupying an abandoned house now, living all alone, shutting herself off from everyone and even herself, breaking all the mirrors in the house, choosing not to look at herself for what a monster she has turned into due to her decisions. Her isolation and the treatment she seemingly got from society seemingly made her a grudgeful and resentful person, kidnapping children and consuming them, trying not to let this get to her. Regardless, she seems to still suffer and crave for attention and friendship, not being happy how she is, evident from the trash bin he had kicked in several times in the kitchen. Choosing to be the monster she is now, mercilessly killing children, even possibly adults, the little girl proceeds to open the music box, which indeed unveils it was a gift given to her by her mother, hence why she keeps it as a sentimental item. The music box has a large moon in the middle representing the mother, with two smaller stars on either side representing the sister and the witch herself. A small mirror within the music box is also broken, further indicating how she doesn't like looking at herself, both being insecure for her facial deformity and the cruel and sinister person that she has become, as it's easier to do what she does without being reminded of who she used to be. The little girl manages to find a lighter in the witch's room, which allows her to navigate in the dark basement. With her line of view being restricted, she only notices two live humans being wrapped in sacks when she steps on them, which makes them burst into tears and cry loudly, revealing the eerie and cruel nature of the witch and the next stage of what happens to trapped children. After being put in a cage in the attic, they are wrapped in a sack and thrown into the basement until the witch is ready to consume them. That's where the little girl finds an axe, something the witch seemingly uses for prepping her food, when all of a sudden the witch appears, with the little girl acting on instinct and hacking at the witch, which stuns her, giving the little girl some short time to run to the main door and break it open. Just as she does that, it gets brighter inside the basement, where the girl sees so many different insects hung on the ceiling, revealing how the basement is the pantry where all the food is stored. As the girl manages to break the door open, she quickly looks behind her, revealing how the witch has transformed into an overshadowing hunchbacked monster walking on all four. Managing to leave the premises, the witch stays behind as she's not comfortable in the public, letting the girl escape. Despite managing to survive and leaving the grasp of the witch, the ending unveils how the little girl was badly traumatized after her experience with the witch, always paranoid that the witch would come back for her to finish what she started. This unfortunately incapacitates and debilitates the little girl mentally, preventing him from ever going out without being paranoid, watching over her shoulders. In a twisted and ironic manner, the little outgoing girl becomes similar to the witch, becoming isolated and scared of public places. And that's about it for this video, folks. I truly hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, you can stay tuned for more by hitting on the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your host Star, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.